Good day, everyone. I am J-Paolo of Jabagat, and I'll be your teacher for today. And I have a question for you guys. Have you noticed your classmates writing down their notes while your teacher is discussing? Or have you observed your seatmates taking picture of your teacher's PowerPoint presentation? Or have you ever heard your classmates studying lessons very loudly to the extent that you get irritated to their voices? If you said yes, why are those people doing such things? Yes, that's it. Because that is their way of studying and that is their way of learning and getting information to that lesson. And that's what we are going to talk about this morning. We are going to talk about the Vark learning styles. Then what are the Vark learning styles? Well, in the very first place, the acronym Vark is used to describe the four modalities of student learning that were described in 1992 study by Neil D. Fleming and Colin E. Mills. And what does the Vark mean? V is for visual, A for auditory or oral, R for read or write, and K for kinesthetic. And let me discuss to you about the four types of learning styles. And let's start with the visual learning. When you say visual learners, they attend to information most effectively when they see something such as pictures, films, and videos. And when you say oral learners, they prefer to hear the information rather than the other style. So typically, these learners are excellent listeners. And the third one is the read and write learners. They would learn by reading information and writing information presented to them in words. And the fourth one is the kinesthetic learning. Well, these learners usually learn through experience and practices while comparing a topic with a real or non-real experiences. And let me dig deeper. And let's go with the visual learning. Let us talk about their characteristics. Let me zoom in. What are the characteristics of visual learners? They typically remember what they see rather than what they hear. And they also remember diagrams and pictures. They prefer to read and write rather than listen. That is why there are people or your classmates are taking pictures while your teachers are discussing. It's because that's how they learn. That's how they remember things. When they see it, they will remember and they will learn from it. And of course, they are having trouble remembering the verbal instructions. And they need an overall view and purpose before beginning a project. That is why you don't have to give them verbal instructions, but you give them written instructions that would visualize their instructions. Because when you just talk and talk and talk, they would never ever understand what you are talking about. And they like arts, more likely in arts, visual arts, rather than music. And sometimes they tune out when trying to pay attention. Study hints for visual learners, they typically taking written notes in their lectures or in their classes. It's because that's the way they wanted to be to learn a lot of things in writing things. So they also use colors to highlight important points. And I'm very guilty with this because I do highlight important points in my textbook or in any study works that I have. So I did that as well. And I also pay attention to diagrams, charts, and pictures in textbooks. Because when you're a visual learner, you actually visualize where is that diagram located. And that's how you remember things. And that's okay. I'll be remembering this. Where is located? Is it north, south, or east or west? So any direction, they would visualize it. And also, they use mind maps with colors and diagrams. And further, there are two types of visual learners. There are visual iconic and visual symbolic. When you say visual iconic, they prefer this form of input, are more interested in visual imagery, such as film, graphic, displays, or pictures in order for them to solidify the learning. While the visual symbolic, they prefer to form input for more comfortable with abstract symbolism, such as mathematical formula or the written words. So that's it. Then let's proceed to the next learner. The next learner that we have is the oral learners or the auditory learners. Typically, they learned well through lectures and like talking. The sound, rhyme, and music can help them remember things. That is why when we were in our elementary or we were in our kindergarten days, our teachers used to give us a song. We dance while we were singing. We like to read to themselves or out at loud. So when they read the textbook, they wanted to hear it. So that is why they prefer to read it loudly. They're good at explaining as well and following verbal directions. Good. They are opposite to the visual learners because visual learners don't like verbal directions. They prefer visual directions. So here in auditory learners, they really like that one. And they like to repeat some things while speaking to someone. So when you encountered someone who is repeating the words that you have said, so they are auditory learners because they love repeating things that have been said. And also, they talk in groups about what has been learned in class. And typically, they really love group discussions. This type of learners really love group discussions. And so, there are study tips and oral learners. Let's talk about it. They work in a quiet area. They avoiding all distractions because they are good listeners. That is why they wanted to be in a quiet area to absorb a lot of information. And also they use rhythms or beats that help you remember. That is why they prefer to make a song out of that lesson. And also they going to tutoring and then reading aloud, very loud. So that is why when there is someone who is studying very loudly, they're auditory. They participate in study groups. And also, I'd like to give you the types of auditory learners or the oral learners. There are two types as well. The listeners and then the talkers. When you say listeners, typically they remember things said to them and make the information their own. So typically they will always listen to you in order for them to learn. While the other one, the talkers, they prefer to talk and discuss the information or the lessons because they often find themselves talking to those around them as well. So they love talking and talking and talking. So let's proceed to the third learner, the read and write learner. Well, the characteristics of these learners, they love to talk. They love to talk. They read with whisper lip movements and they prefer lecture and discussion. And they cannot concentrate in a noisy area. And they can talk to themselves as well. Like they're very crazy when we see them talking to themselves, but that is not. That is their way, that is their style of learning things. They are same as the auditory, but in this type is read and write. They typically read and read. They reread it, they rewrite it. So when we were in our elementary days, our teachers wanted to copy what's in the textbook on the board, and on the board we copy it in our notebooks. And study tips for the read and write learner: they rewrite and they reread their notes. They read aloud, they take a lots of notes and make a lists. These learners are very organized learners because they make a list. They turn diagrams into charts. And the fourth one is the kinesthetic learners. Well, they are an excellent physical learners. They often gifted in physical activities, and mostly they are athletes. They're very sporty, and they may chew gum or eat snacks while studying. So when you see people who are studying in the canteen, so those are kinesthetic learners. They cannot study if they do not eat. And then great at working jigsaw puzzles. Often does not like to read directions rather than just doing them. And they also better at remembering when they do things. Even in a high school, when we have our laboratory activities, our teachers first do the activity and we follow them. And that is one way of their teaching styles as well, to make students remember the lessons that they are teaching. And the study tips for kinesthetic learners are they combine activities with studying. So they keeping your fingers busy and utilize all your senses, because they learn by doing and they cannot learn by reading alone. So those are the Vark learning styles of this discussion. And now let's proceed to the multiple intelligences of Howard Gardner. Well, there are 8 multiple intelligences by Howard Gardner. The first one that we're going to discuss is about verbal linguistic intelligence, or the word smart. They're skilled with words and language, and they're very good at reading, writing, and learning new languages. Well, people who are very strong in linguistic verbal intelligences are able to use words very well. They both very good at writing and speaking, and these individuals are typically very good at writing stories, memorizing information, and reading. Of course, they are debaters and they give persuasive speeches. And the second one, we have the logical mathematical intelligence, or the logic smart. People who are very strong in this intelligence are very good at the reasoning, recognizing patterns, and logical analyzing problems. And these individuals tend to think conceptually about numbers, relationships, and patterns. And even if they, even if it's very difficult question or a very difficult problem in mathematics, they would probably solve it because they are smart in this field. And they are more likely conducting scientific experiments because they're very curious of a lot of things, and they can always solve complex computations. Even if you're wondering how she did that thing, even if it's difficult, how did she solve that problem or that computation, even if it's so hard for you to solve it? Then let's proceed to the third one, the bodily kinesthetic intelligence, or the body smart. These people who have this intelligence they are said to be good at body movements, performing actions, and physical control. And people who are very strong in this area tend to have an excellent hand-eye coordination and dexterity. And their skill is coordinating their minds with their bodies, handling objects skillfully. They are people who are very sporty, just like they're sports athletes, actors. They're good at dancing. They are good at acting because they are body smart. The fourth one is the visual spatial intelligence, or the picture smart. They're very good at visualizing things. These individuals are often good at directions, as well as maps, charts, videos, and pictures. They visualize the world in 3D. Like they read maps, they judge distances. Then The fifth one, the interpersonal intelligence or the people smart. This kind of people, they're good at understanding and interacting with other people. They communicate with others. They're sensing people's feelings and motives, desires and intentions of those around them. So typically, they are not manhid. They're not like those crushes that you have. So they are interpersonal. They have interpersonal intelligences. So more likely, those people are managers. They are leaders in general because they are dealing with people. They are good at dealing with the people. The sixth one, the intrapersonal intelligence or the self-smart. Well, these people, they really understand themselves, what they feel and what they want. They know their strengths and weaknesses. They have the control of themselves and their feelings and their actions. So they're very aware of how their emotions work and how they tend to enjoy self-reflection and analysis. The seventh one, the naturalistic intelligence or the nature smart. These individuals who are nature smart, they understand and relate to nature. And they are interested in nurturing, exploring the environment, and learning about other species in the world. And these individuals are said to be highly aware of even subtle changes to their environments. And more likely, they are zoologists, botanists, and landscapers. And the eighth one, the musical intelligence or the music smart. People who have strong musical intelligence are good at thinking in patterns, rhythms, and sounds, and they are very particular with the technicalities of music. They have a strong appreciation of music and they discern sounds, their pitch, their tone, and their rhythm. And they are good at playing instrument and composing songs. So they are singers, they are composers. So that is a music smart. So class, these are the 8 multiple intelligences of Howard Gardner. So we are done discussing the Vark learning styles and the 8 multiple intelligences. So I hope that you learn a lot of things from this lesson. So this is J-Paolo, your teacher, and see you for the next video. Thank you.